Hello everyone and welcome to another video. I am right now in Spain and I am participating in the Llobregat. I know I should not pronounce the L's, but Llobregat Chess Open. And yeah, it's a very strong tournament. I believe the minimum rating to participate in this event is about 2150. There are some that are less rated than that, but not so much. So since I'm just above that mark, I will be facing a lot of strong players in this event, and I'm super excited for that. It is a 10-round classical tournament, and usually it's 9 rounds, so this is one extra round, and that means it's going to be very tough and energy consuming because the games are going to be very difficult as well. No rest day, by the way. So yeah, it's going to be quite a challenge, but I'm super excited, and today was round 1. So let's talk about round 1. What happened? Well, in round 1, I faced international master Sebastian Felipe Sanchez from Colombia. And yeah, already first round playing against an IM. And I was very excited. But when I was preparing, I saw that my opponent plays a lot of different openings, so I had a lot to prepare. But my opponent played one of the lines that I prepared until a certain point, which was actually quite quickly. So let's take a look what happened in this game. I start with e4, c5, knight f3, e6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight c6. So I was expecting that my opponent would go for the Taimanov. So knight c3, a6. But here I got confused because I remember that my opponent almost always plays queen c7 here. And now with a6, it's a little bit different. Well, it can get different. I play bishop e3 and here knight f6. And I thought, oh, I was expecting queen c7 here. But now after knight f6, I thought, what is exactly the difference between these two moves? Why do people usually play queen c7? So during the game, I had to figure out what is going on and yeah, what I should be doing here. And that took quite some time, but I was able to figure something out. I took on c6 because I thought after b takes c6, I have e5. There's a reason queen c7 is played, to cover e5. Well, at least that's what I thought. And it made sense during the game because after knight d5, so I remember there are some lines with knight e4, but now that my bishop is on e3, I don't really want to lose a pair of bishops, and it doesn't really look like a good trade at all for me. So that's why I have to take on d5, c takes d5, bishop d3, d6. I was expecting this move, but it was a little bit difficult to decide what to do about this because as you can see, my opponent has a really strong center and I basically don't have a center anymore because the pawn on e5 will be captured, it will be traded off, and then I basically have no center anymore. What I do have going on for myself is that I'm ahead in development, I have these bishops that are very strong, and maybe I can control the central squares. And after d6, e takes e6, bishop takes d6, we're still in a French-like type of structure. At least I recognize this a lot from my games when I play the black pieces, that these pawns over here, and if white gets c3, f4, then we are in quite a typical French pawn structure. Well, usually there's a pawn on e5 and or d4, but now that's not the case. So it's a little bit different, but ideas are very similar, and I thought I could use this to my advantage because I have a lot of experience in this pawn structure. Not so much from white's perspective, but I have seen a thing or two, right? So yeah, anyway, I decided to take on d6 because I wasn't entirely sure about bishop d4. It didn't really feel nice that my bishop would get stuck there, and I was thinking actually maybe there's some queen g5. If I play bishop d4, then there's two pawns hanging. Yeah, I was not really looking forward to that. So that's why I took bishop takes d6 and here f4. I'm trying to stop e5 whatsoever, and I thought it was also a really strong move just because I gained some space on the king side. I will castle on the king side, but maybe I thought I can involve my queen in some sort of king side attack too. So I thought this would be a great start, and I want to play short castle and then bishop d4 and really consolidate in the center and control that e5 square. So that was the idea at least. So then short castle was played, short castles, and after a5, my opponent is trying to play bishop a6 because if there's one thing we know in the French pawn structures is that this bishop is oftentimes not so happy. So what you want to do with black is to trade off those bishops, the light squared bishops that is. And of course, I don't want to allow this, but I thought, let's play bishop d4. So a little bit of a funny note. Well, before I mention this, let me first mention what is the idea behind bishop d4. So I want my opponent to play bishop a6, because what happens after bishop a6 is that I am going to sacrifice a bishop, not just one, but two. Haha! And the idea is that after king takes g7, there's queen g4, check. If king f6, queen g5 is already checkmate. If the king goes anywhere on the h file, let's say here, then rook f3, and checkmate is followed on the next move, basically. So this is the idea, and this is a double bishop sacrifice, which is a very common theme. Well, it doesn't happen as much, but it's a well-known theme. And funnily enough, what I wanted to mention is that recently we had a training session together with the Chess Queens, and yeah, for those who don't know who the Chess Queens are, it is a foundation in the Netherlands that supports women's chess, and we have monthly training all together with a coach. And the theme of our last session was exactly this. So I was so happy to see that, hey, like, I remember when I was thinking of the move bishop d4, I thought, wait, I remember this from that lesson. That was crazy to me. That I haven't really had this opportunity in a really long time. I don't know if I ever had the opportunity to sacrifice the bishops in this way. But yeah, it was an idea in my game now, and I was super excited for it. But of course, my opponent does not play bishop a6, and my opponent realizes that after the move bishop d4, I want to capture these pawns and attack. But yeah, my opponent realizes this and plays the move g6. So that is covering everything, of course, but I thought, well, my opponent is covering this idea, but what about those dark squares? They're super weak around the black king. Queen e2, I'm just covering the square a6, queen c7, c3. Here, I remember spending a lot of time. So here, my opponent was spending a lot of time too. So I was ahead on the clock at this point. But here I thought, okay, I need to figure out what I want to do, because basically my opponent is attacking the pawn on f4 and threatening to play bishop c5, and also bishop a6 is in the air at some point. I thought my opponent could force a way to trade both of my bishops. And I was really not happy about that, especially trading off this bishop, because now that the dark squares are so weak, I want to keep my dark squared bishop, right? But it's really difficult to see how I can prevent bishop c5. So at first I spent a lot of time thinking of bishop f6 with the idea that after bishop takes f4, I'm going to take. And then queen takes f4, and then I thought I'm going to play rook f1, and I'm just controlling the dark squares, and this king is feeling very unsafe. I'm just controlling the dark squares with queen e5 next, and black basically doesn't have play whatsoever. I should be able to squeeze something out of this. But yeah, then I realized that after bishop f6, there's bishop e7, bishop e5, and then there's a sneaky check. Because now my king has to move, or well, I don't really want to play rook f2 or something. Let's say king h1, then f6, and now suddenly my bishop is in a very awkward place. I have to go all the way to c3, and yeah, I'd rather have my bishop on d4, you know, if it gets to this, you know, I'd rather have it on d4. So that's why I didn't like bishop f6, and I don't really want to trade this bishop off. So that leaves me with very few options. And then I started thinking, okay, then king h1, but then bishop takes f4. I don't really want to take now because my bishop is hanging and I need to play rook f1 to control the dark squares, because otherwise the f-pawn will move f6 or maybe f5 will be played. So I thought, yeah, no, we don't want that. We need that tempo, you know? So then I thought, all right, c3 it is. I spent so much time on this. It's such a small move, but I really didn't want to sort of lose the advantage that I felt I had. So c3, and then my opponent plays queen c6, and I was shocked. I thought, are you kidding me? I spent over 30 minutes on c3, and queen c6 is definitely not a good move. At least I thought that this move is not good whatsoever, because I guess my opponent is preparing to move bishop a6, but at this point, I want to trade off this bishop. I mean, if I can avoid it, of course, I'd rather not. But if I have to, it's fine, because look at all these pawns. now that the pawns are on light squares, I want to have the dark squared bishop because I want to attack and checkmate on g7, right? So in this very specific case, I would love to trade off this bishop. Well, I'd rather not, but I'd rather trade this one off than the other one. So I was really expecting to move bishop c5, and then my bishop would be traded off, and then it becomes really difficult to see how I will actually be able to attack. But after queen c6, I was really excited and, well, also a bit sad inside because I wasted so much time for almost nothing, but okay, whatever. Rook f3, I ended up playing rook f3 because I want to start preparing an attack. Bishop a6, I take that because after rook takes a6, so obviously I'm still looking at the move bishop c5, but now I play king h1 because if now bishop c5, obviously bishop takes, and then queen takes a6. The rook is hanging on a6. So that's why bishop c5 is not a move now. So I'm basically preventing my opponent from trading off that bishop on d4. And now my opponent went for rook c8. And here I was thinking, I want to do something. I have time, maybe I have time, but I cannot really move my rook. Sorry about that. I cannot really move my rook from f3 to h3 because this pawn is hanging. Then I was thinking, what about rook f1? Well, queen c4, and I can play queen f2, but I thought this is a bit shaky. I'm not sure if this is actually winning or something. Well, I guess there's like a million of threats in the position. But yeah, for some reason, I didn't really want to do this. Actually, there is bishop c5. Yeah, you can play bishop c5, and I don't really want to allow this, right? So that's why I felt like rook af1. I need to get this rook into the game and join the attack. But I thought allowing queen c4 and the pawn on a2 is hanging, I didn't like that. So that's why I played queen e1. Crazy move, but the idea is simple. I want to play queen h4 and queen f6 or queen h6, or maybe there's more, because after queen b7, my opponent made a mistake. I was thinking that, okay, if my opponent stops me from playing queen h4 with bishop e7, then I have queen e5, f6, the queen goes back somewhere here, and then I provoked f6, and there are some weaknesses in black's position. Small victory, nothing concrete more than that, but it's nice. But my opponent for queen b7, I thought, what? I play queen h4 instantly, because I'm threatening this amazing idea of, after bishop e7, queen takes, king takes, rook h3 check, and after bishop h4, rook takes h4, king g8, suddenly it's checkmate on h8. I was so excited for this. I thought, wow, is my opponent actually allowing me to do this? But of course, this is when my opponent realized that there is a trick in the position. And he did tell me afterwards, after the game, that he completely missed this queen takes h7 idea until now. I played queen h4, and then he realized, oh, shoot, there is a tactic in the position. So then he spent some time and he came up with f5, which is the best move, because now queen f6, so I'm attacking this, queen h8 is threatened, and he found this really nice move, e5. Crazy, because all of a sudden, look, if I take with f takes e5, I'm losing my queen on f6. My queen is trapped, and I have nothing. I can't even move e6 because my queen is under attack by the bishop too. So this was really depressing to see that there is such a trick in the position, such a nasty trick, and yeah, how am I not completely winning here? So queen e6 check, I gave a check because, as you could have guessed, I'm very low on time here. I have about 3 minutes on the clock, and my opponent is also, well, not super low on time, but a couple of minutes more than me. But yeah, I gave a check, queen e6, king f8, queen f6, king g8, and I didn't want to repeat again because then I think it will end up in a threefold repetition. And yeah, we were right now on move 24, so I had a lot of moves to go until the 14th move to get extra time. By the way, on move 40, we get 15 minutes extra, not 30, so that adds more pressure, you know? But anyway, I gave this extra check, and after that, I played bishop takes e5. I'm capturing the pawn because I know that, okay, I'm winning this pawn. Bishop takes, and my queen is safe. But it looks very scary, you know? The queen got trapped in the middle of the board. Rook b6, b3, queen d7, rook e1. I'm just going quickly through these moves because there's not so much happening other than we're just activating our pieces. At least I'm trying to activate my pieces. And the opponent is playing very defensively. Rook d3, rook d8, rook d4, queen c6. And my opponent is super tricky. I mean, my backrank situation is a little bit awkward. If I have my rook on d1, maybe there's rook e6. Well, actually, rook e6 is immediately trapping the queen if my rook leaves the e-file, so that's good to keep in mind. But yeah, there are definitely like some ways where if I misplay, if I suddenly move my rook or something from the first rank, then maybe there are some tactics where suddenly a rook comes in on the first rank. So I have to be really careful here. I play rook e3, king f7, and here I was really excited to play h3 because finally my king has some air, has some luft, so it can escape and there's no back rank stuff anymore. What I didn't realize is that there's queen e7 check. Like, I played h3 and then I thought to myself, Anna, did you not just, like, there was queen e7. It just didn't cross my mind at all, as in, I didn't think it was a move. I guess in my head, I thought that king f7 with the move without queen on c6, so queen is on d7 still, there's no way queen e7 works. So I think I had this like in my mind that there's no way my opponent would play king f7 allowing queen e7 check. Like that did not quite register and I had like very little time. So that's why, I guess that's what happened. So h3, I played that and yeah, after rook e6, I was really excited to trade. I thought, yeah, let's go for it, takes, and c4. But soon enough, I realized that, am I maybe not completely spoiling my advantage here? So this endgame, I'm not entirely sure if it's actually winning, because if you look closely to this endgame, so I didn't have to play c4, but I had like 30 seconds and I just panicked. I was panicking so much, like what is going on? I don't want to like get in a position where it's suddenly very dicey. So I could have played rook a4, but rook c8, and it's actually not so clear because my pawn on c3 is hanging, and if I play c4, takes, this king on e6 is so active, and it's really difficult to make progress for me. So actually takes is not even, like, you don't even have to play it. d4 can get really tricky too. Yeah, I don't know, there are some complications here, and with like 30 seconds on the clock, I really couldn't figure it out, and I thought I have to play c4. Rook d6, and once again, I'm stressing out because do I have to take, do I not take? And I just end up taking on d5, thinking, okay, I'm ahead a pawn, so there should be something, right? But soon enough, king takes d5 was played, and I thought, I think I just spoiled my advantage. I played a3 because this king is getting really close to capturing both my pawns, so I have to play a3 and then b4 to trade off this last pawn of black on the queen side. King d4 was indeed played, king h2, king c3, and b4 is forced, of course, takes, and we crossed move 40. So we got 15 minutes extra on our clocks. King g3, king c4. When we got to this point, I thought, like, there is a way to lose this. If you are just mindlessly playing with your king around, and you end up in zugzwang at some point, and you just lose with white. So I thought, wow, I went from I can never lose this because I'm in a better position, I'm up a pawn, to I can actually lose this if I don't play carefully. But fortunately for me, I play king h4, h6, g4, king d4, and this endgame is drawn because, well, I have two options. I can take on f5, and I calculate that after takes, king h5, king e4, king takes. I have to play king g6 because now the king cannot really go to g3 because then the pawn on h3 will be captured, but I'm capturing f5, so king e4. But then I saw that, you know, we just like run, blah, 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 and we promote at the same time, and this king is too far away, and I'm not getting like tricked or something, so this is completely drawn. So of course, I saw this, and this is why I went for this line, because I see this draw. But then I realized, wait, I don't have to take on f5. I have g5. I was so excited to play this, and I was like looking at the camera like, yes, you know. Well, not very, you couldn't really notice maybe, but yeah. I was very excited because after h5, obviously if my opponent takes king e4, h4, I mean, this is completely unnecessary. Why would you do this? Like, maybe, actually, is it drawn? Probably not. No, I don't think so. Push. Yeah, this is lost because my queen reaches f1. Yeah, so you don't have to do this, of course. You just play h5 because now what happens is that, okay, my king is completely stuck, but that's for a good reason because after king g3, king e3, king h4, if my opponent takes an f4, it's a draw because my king is stuck and it's a stalemate. So my opponent ends up playing king f3, and this is how the game ended in a draw. So yeah, what a game this was. It was so crazy, and I was actually really happy about the ending to finish like this. Like, it felt so satisfying. But obviously, I was in a better position. I did have good chances to win this game, but it was so difficult, and my opponent defended really well. So if only I had much more time on the clock, maybe I would have been able to figure it out. But today, that was not possible. It did not end up happening, and we just have a draw, which is okay. A good first round. I'm really happy because, yeah, it could go... It could have gone very differently, right? But I'm very happy about the game. It was a very fun and exciting game, and you know, even though I didn't win, I feel like I did really well. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow's game. Well, that was it. That was quite a long one. Oh, it felt like it was much longer because I was explaining so much about the game. But I hope you guys enjoyed the recap. Thanks for watching. Make sure to tune in to my live streams, either on Twitch or YouTube, because I'm streaming my games in this tournament. And if you're not catching the live stream, then I hope to see you in my next recap. Bye!